So it's been 2 weeks since the 97th Oscars at the time I'm writing this, and I'm still angry about the Best Actress snub. I guess part of it is my own fault for getting so invested in the Academy Awards this year, as usually I couldn't care less about what a bunch of people who aren't even required to watch the movies they're voting for think. But this year, for the first time in 27 years, a Brazilian film was nominated for not only Best International Film, but also for Best Motion Picture, and a Brazilian actress, Fernanda Torres, was nominated for Best Actress, and I got caught up in the fever. I also really loved The Substance and Demi Moore, so there's that. But in the back of my mind, I knew it wasn't going to happen for Torres. The Oscars are all about who you know and how much money and power and influence you have, and of course, it's very local, read American ceremony. The Oscars aren't for celebrating film on a global scale, but rather for patting Hollywood elites on the back. It's just a spectacle and pageantry, and would someone please get Adrian Brody off the stage? And this year cemented that for me when Mickey Madison won for Best Actress against Demi Moore, Cynthia Erivo, Carla Sofia Gascon, and Fernanda Torres. What a joke. Never again am I wasting my time with this BS. The Substance came to life for real that night. And this snub is just one in a long line of snubs, and honestly, they seem to happen every year. From Lily Gladstone's loss in 2024, to Yalitza Aparicio in 2019, to no acting nominations for Parasite in 2020 despite a Best Picture win, how does that happen? To Gwyneth Paltrow's win against Fernanda Montenegro in 1999, to Jennifer Lawrence's win against Emmanuel Riva in 2013, and yet, here I am, still surprised. Since the Oscars have decided to increase diversity within the acting nominations in order to do something about the viral hashtag #OscarsSoWhite, there's always been one or two Best Actresses who are non-white or non-English speaking or older to keep the nominees interesting. But when it comes time to vote, the Academy usually will give it to the youngest or whitest woman on the list, but not always. But generally, when the Academy wants to play it safe and not make things too political, or if they feel like they did their political duty already by nominating actresses who are older, trans, or non-English speaking, they won't bother voting for a minority actress as the winner. Note, many of these actresses are actually bilingual or trilingual. When I say non-English actresses or actors, I should have said actresses who appear in non-English or non-majority English movies and productions. It's especially hard to get mostly white cishet Americans to vote for you when your movie is about something challenging like dementia or trans identity or in another language other than English. Those films just won't bring in voters because, quite frankly, people don't want to see your movie. As again, seeing all the movies nominated is not a requirement for voting. Which is why it's so jaw-dropping when films like Moonlight, Parasite, or Everything Everywhere All at Once win, because the Academy audience is usually so hostile to anything that isn't in English or doesn't star white people as the heroes. But at the end of the day, what are most voters going to want to see? Mickey Madison playing a sex worker in a series of comedic errors with a mostly all-white cast, or a movie about an older Brazilian woman facing persecution under a totalitarian regime? What's more enticing, a drama starring a young, up-and-coming actress, or Demi Moore turning into a monster as she destroys her own body to stay young forever? It's a no-brainer for most voters. Obviously, Mickey should win. She's young, she's fresh, she's beautiful, and we want to invest in our future, in an American actress who still has life in her. Again, The Substance has come to life. But in the end, at least to me, the nominations for the other actresses just feel like cruel tokenism rather than a commitment to diversity. And maybe the actresses who seem to be so unwelcome in these spaces would be better off just not being nominated at all than instead being put through the ringer and getting their hopes up just to lose. But maybe that's just me. So in the rest of this video, I want to talk about if the American prestige of the Oscars is even still worth chasing, as well as delve into Walter Sally's campaign for his film I'm Still Here, and Fernanda Torres and Demi Moore's snubs. So without further ado, let's go. Part 1, American Prestige. So as we discussed in the intro, because the Oscars are so American, it's huge when they recognize talent and art outside of the white American colonialist gaze, if you will. And because Hollywood has such a global reach and influence, even having an Oscar nomination boosts the movie's prestige and bottom line. Thus, there's great incentive for filmmakers around the world to care about this little golden man. Flo's Oscar statue for Best Animated Feature Film is currently being exhibited at the National Museum of Art in Latvia. That's how proud they are of this incredible feat, because it truly is incredible and almost inconceivable, especially in a category that usually just goes to Disney Pixar every year. Not to mention how huge it was that No Other Land, a Palestinian documentary about Israel's occupation, won for Best Documentary Feature. That night, Basil Adra, the Palestinian film director, activist, lawyer, and journalist behind the film, was able to speak directly to the people who are benefiting from Israel's occupation and alliance with the US. He had so much to say, and it was clear that he was shaking with determination to get every single word out. Unlike some other winners who who were so self-absorbed that they subjected us all to their vanity. It was beautiful to watch and hear his words, though I don't know how much the Academy actually cares about what he has to say. It reached me. Though it should be noted that No Other Land is unavailable to stream in the US and did not get a US theatrical release. At times, I think they just nominate and vote for whatever will make them feel better about themselves, hence the Emilia Perez nominations and wins, but none of the winners thanking the trans community or mentioning trans people, not even their co-star who helped them make the movie at all, or even Mexico for that matter, which makes it so hard not to be cynical about the entire thing. But still, winning and being nominated matters. It feels good to be recognized by your peers and by the dominant culture as a minority because it sadly so rarely happens. It makes you feel seen, like you're making a difference through your art and that those in power care. It makes moments like Moonlight and Parasite's wins and Michelle Yeoh's win and Lily Gladstone and Yalitza Aparicio and Fernanda Torres' nominations mean something, as a rallying point that those at the top see us. But in reality, though I understand why it's something to be proud of, getting nominations and Oscars is like kings and queens giving out crumbs to the starving masses. These awards just maintain the US imperialist hierarchy. Liberals, even well-meaning artistic liberals who tell you to vote for the Democratic nominee, don't want the world to change, don't want the global US hierarchy to collapse because it means that they will no longer have power and wealth that they covet so dearly. They believe in equal opportunity, not outcome. So every year, they'll throw in a Best Supporting Actress of Color to even out the playing field, nominate a non-US actress in the Best Acting category, but never actually intend to give her an award. It's a show of democracy without actually being democratic. Can't get much more American than that, I guess. It's just so infuriating that the Academy Awards matter, or at least have all this pomp and circumstance like they matter, but in the end of the day, they rarely change people's lives. There's even something called the Oscar curse, which means if you win an Oscar, it actually might ruin your career. Though of course that's a superstition, there's a grain of truth in there. Halle Berry won for Best Actress in 2002, but then won a Razzie in 2004 for Catwoman, and hasn't been in anything very mainstream or prestigious since X-Men. And she is still the only black performer to win an Oscar in the Best Actress category. Monique won for Best Supporting Actress for Precious in 2009, but then seemed to be blacklisted from the industry shortly after as she spoke out against Netflix for discrimination, as well as against Oprah and Tyler Perry. But in the end, it's not the Oscar curse, it's just that there's not enough roles and stories for black women in Hollywood. And even when roles are race-blind, and they just want the best person for the role, because of racism, white people are seen as more competent, more sympathetic, and more deserving. Even with Oscars under their belt, Barry and Monique struggled to get work, and in Monique's case, she was not monetarily compensated by Netflix the same way her white comedian peers were due to her race. And that's again with an Oscar. So in the end, aside from prestige and recognition, what material gain does the statue actually signify? And yet actors, men and women, worked tirelessly to prove themselves to their peers. Bradley Cooper even donned a prosthetic nose last year to try to win and transform himself, only to lose again. Leonardo DiCaprio acted inside of a dead bear skin to get his win. Adrian Brody, who suffered from an ED due to The Pianist, made his comeback and won this year with a disturbing role in The Brutalist. People want to win. People are desperate for it. So desperate that they'll brutalize their bodies. The Weinsteins poured millions into their movies and campaigns to get that gold, not to mention harassed and abused a multitude of women in their care. And yet, to me at least, the Oscars are still such a joke. And this year, during the Best Actress Award, it solidified that for me. Part 2, the Best Actress Snub and the Myth of Objectivity. So this year, Mickey Madison, at age 25, won for Best Actress at the Oscars for her role as Anora, or Ani, in Sean Baker's film Anora. Baker's film won the Palme d'Or this year, and this is only the third time in Oscar history that the Best Picture winner has won both. The exceptions being Parasite and Marty from 1955, which won both awards, a huge feat. The Oscars, I think, are trying to tell the world that they're hip, young, and modern, and with the times by recognizing internationally acclaimed films, but it also helps that this year's winner was an American film. And Anora was a great movie, and Madison, of course, was deserving of her nomination, and in her speech mentioned the sex work community that helped make the film possible, which is great. I really liked the film, and I suggest watching Roy Deschanel's review of it to find out more, and I think it's great that Madison so humbly accepted the award. It can't be easy to win against such powerhouses and know that you're going to be criticized, and that's not fair. Similar to how Stone was apologetic because everyone thought it was going to be another historic night, this time for Lily Gladstone, after Yeoh's win the year before in 2023. I, for one, was rooting for Fernanda Torres, though I knew she wasn't going to win. Yes, she won the Golden Globe, but the Oscars are another beast entirely. My second choice was Demi Moore, and I was so sure she was going to win and that this was going to be her night, especially after her transformation in The Substance. Hollywood loves movies about themselves and acting and storytelling, and again, awards transformative roles. And all of the substance effects were practical. Not to mention, she's put in years into acting in Hollywood. She's 62 years old. It had to be her night. But I guess I forgot about Glenn Close being the most Oscar-nominated actress right now in Hollywood with no wins at 77 years old. I guess they'll give it to her on her deathbed. Cynthia Erivo is a Black and British singer, 38 years old. I think she'll be nominated again next year for Wicked Part 2, and I didn't think she was going to win. Then there's Carla Sofia Gascon as the first ever openly trans woman nominee, who I personally don't think we'll see again at the Oscars, but who knows. She was definitely controversial after her really horrible views came to light that weren't even that old, like tweets from the 2020s, early 2020s, talking about how she hates Muslim people in Spain, hates Islam, and made degrading comments about George Floyd and his murder. It was just really awful stuff. Camila de Aurora, a trans creator here on YouTube from Mexico, actually made a parody film of Emilia Perez called Johanne Sacreblu, which you should check out. The parody has already garnered 3 million views. Generally, Emilia Perez is full of transphobia and Mexican stereotypes envisioned by a Frenchman. Cisgender, a trans American creator, has also dissected the film, and I suggest checking out her analysis as well. And for all this talk about the nominees, we haven't really discussed their performances, and that's because in my personal opinion, the Oscar for Best Actress is not about performance. They're all great performers. They all deserve to be there. Performance is also highly subjective. I don't think even with majority votes it's possible to deem one actress better than another. Of course there are bad performances, but what makes a good performance is much more complicated, especially when you're putting seasoned actresses against one another, and when you know someone personally or may dislike someone. It taints the results. No one can be 100% objective. It makes me question the merit and point of having awards for art and film, as if one can objectionably be the best. It also plays into this capitalist myth that competition can breed innovation and that competition is only natural when no, it isn't. Awards are a byproduct of capitalism to gamify art and film, and I don't like that. What it comes down to, as far as the Oscars is concerned, is your campaign, how much money you have, how much influence you can wield. It's about politics and optics and what the Academy wants to say to the world, and this year, they wanted to play it safe. They didn't want to rock the boat, just give it to the least controversial nominee, that's it. And I know that's hard to hear because we want to believe that awards are given by merit, but how much merit does a 25 or 22-year-old first-time acting nominee have? Let's be real. That's not to say that the performances were bad or that they're not ready to win yet or are too young. Young people are talented and work hard, but rather it feels disingenuous to have these up-and-coming ingenues be in the same category as older professionals. It makes no sense. And some may say that I'm the nonsensical one. You just want the tokens to win. How's that fair? Clearly Emma Stone deserved to win her second Oscar over Lily Gladstone. She's just a better actress. And what gives Stone more acting experience than Gladstone? More exposure. All of her privileges of being white and thin, and with the ability to pursue acting at an early age with her mom and moving to LA, risking it all to make it as a child actor with female roles open to her. While Gladstone stayed in Montana, pursued a BFA, and wasn't able to just jump into acting like so many other white female actresses can and do. The Oscar nominations assume everyone gets there on equal footing, that they're all the same age, they all have the same experiences. They might have had different life circumstances, but they were all brought to this same point, this same night. In the end, they all have the same opportunity to win despite their differences. Thus, they have the same outcome, getting to this night. But in reality, they didn't. And again, to me, it's cruel to lump all of these women together who come from such different walks of life and then judge them objectively when there is no such thing as that. Fernanda Torres, at age 59, was nominated for Best Actress for I'm Still Here when the voting body of the Academy is 60% American, or should I say United Statesian, and 1% Brazilian, and the movie was in Portuguese. What kind of objectivity is that? Obviously, the voting body will see her performance as different from Mickey's and Demi's, who are American English-speaking actors in Hollywood productions. I think that it's amazing that she was nominated and that she got so far, especially since in the beginning of the campaign when the film was getting awards buzz, she and the crew came forward saying the Oscars will not define this movie. And they still stand by that. It was an exhilarating ride getting to go to Hollywood and showcase Brazilian cinema, which has been snubbed for decades at this point by the Academy. But the Oscar win for Best International and nomination for Best Actress and Best Film of the Year, though amazing and well-deserved, again, doesn't dictate if the movie's good or not. I think what really sold the Academy on this movie and Tohis was the fact that Walter Salles, the director, is a billionaire and the third richest filmmaker in the world. He is the heir of Itaú Bank, one of the biggest private banks in Brazil, and was also friends with the Paiva family and their children growing up in the 1960s, who the movie is based on. So it was a nice narrative that he could weave for those Americans who probably know nothing of the Brazilian dictatorship. Additionally, this is his second Oscar campaign in 27 years after the snub of Central Station, which was nominated for Best International Feature, then it was called Best Foreign Film, and got Fernanda Torres' mother, Fernanda Montenegro, who was 67 at the time, a Best Actress nomination. Montenegro lost to Gwyneth Paltrow. See how history repeats itself? But since it was his second try, he already knew going in of how Oscar politics worked. In 2009, he even signed a petition to release Roman Polanski from Switzerland after he was detained for raping a 13-year-old girl. So he knows how to play ball with Hollywood. And I know, people are fawning over him right now. He's changed and whatever, but I don't know. He's still a billionaire with 4.2 billion USD under his belt. I think he'll be okay if I call him out on his past. And although 4 Brazilian co-productions have already won an Academy Award, none of them were awarded to Brazilians. This is the first victory for a Brazilian, and it's huge. Though, of course, many filmgoers are sad, to say the least, that Torres didn't get the win for Best Actress. We should never let the governing body of Hollywood dictate what and who is or isn't worthy. And some say it's not personal. Don't be a snowflake, it's just business. And I'd argue that the snubs are personal and political because the personal is political. The fact that the Academy wants to constantly award young white women and not older women or trans women or non-English speaking women or women who are bilingual or trilingual says something about how Hollywood and American filmmaking is invested in itself and itself only. So much for liberal Hollywood. The more attention we give the awards, at least the Oscars, the more they'll matter. So I'm going to be boycotting the Academy Awards probably for the rest of my life. I'm not going to give them any more of my time. That ceremony is 4 hours long. Screw you. And we should, again, never let a group of millionaires and billionaires tell us what's good cinema and what's not. I understand why the award is meaningful and what it represents, especially to underprivileged and overlooked groups. But in reality, it rarely manifests in any material gain or outcome for the winners. Actual change won't happen if the roles aren't there, if casting directors and writers and production studios don't open their minds and actually hire the best person for the job. Funny that the best person for the job is never someone who's non-white or old or anything, but young, fresh, and American. So that's it for this one. If you can, go out and see I'm Still Here in theaters, look it up online, read about it. It's very pertinent, especially in today's political climate. Watch Central Station, watch City of God, watch Minha Mãe é uma Peça, watch The Clown or O Palhaço. These are just some of my Brazilian movie recommendations. If you're curious, look them up. Brazilian cinema is out there. So that's it for this one. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you think about the Best Actress category down below, and if you thought this year was a snub year, because in my opinion, it totally was, and I'm still mad about it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.